So Bootstrap is just a framework that was created by a couple guys from Twitter, couple designers, a designer and developer for Twitter. Become one of the most popular front-end frameworks in the world. Bootstrap has had over 20 releases, including major rewrites version 2, 3, 4. Right now they're currently on version 5. I've used 4 and 3 previously. They had some things in it like a jumbotron and stuff that they had in before and they got rid of now. There's other ways to create a jumbotron though when we get to that point. Bootstrap has made it much easier to build responsive websites. Not only that, a lot of the things they do with this is very nice. I've mentioned before that back when I was starting out coding in that, there was no Bootstrap. So to do a lot of these things in Bootstrap that Bootstrap does, we had to code it out by hand. Well, now they have this big library of code out there that all you have to do is call a class and it can do a lot of things for you rather than having to code it out. Hundreds of lines of code for some of this stuff. It's already coded out for you. You just call the class name that you want and boom, it's there. Somebody asked yesterday, do we learn CSS just so we can work with Bootstrap? And no, not necessarily. Bootstrap, being the library that it is, the framework that it is, already has this stuff coded out for you. So when you use it, it's kind of already set up a certain way for you. CSS gives you more freedom, more flexibility to do what you want to with it compared to Bootstrap already being set up and doing what Bootstrap does for you. As we go through these slides, we'll kind of see some of the Bootstrap stuff and how it's already set up, like their color selection. They use, I think it's like maybe 7 different colors compared to if you code it out yourself in CSS, you can use whatever kind of colors you want. They use certain font sizes, font styles, and that. CSS, you can do all that yourself, whatever you want to do with it and that. So benefits of Bootstrap: quick startup, mobile first responsive design, and there's themes that you can use with it. If you go out and search the net, we can take a look at it here in a bit. There's all kinds of templates and things out there that are designed for Bootstrap that you can use. And I think in one of our labs that we do, it tells you to go use a template, a Bootstrap website template, and then go play with it and change it to make it look like your own kind of a thing. Bootstrap CDN, that's just a content download network kind of a thing. What you do is we can go out to, let me get a browser up here. So as soon as it comes up, is it going to come up? So when you use Bootstrap, you can go out to Bootstrap 5, this introduction to Bootstrap, and here they have a CSS file that you can copy. So you copy the CSS file. Here they have, you can see the version here, 5.0.2. I think I downloaded a newer version already. Yeah, 5.3.3. So what you do is you go out, copy the code here, this link, and all this link is for style sheets. And we've done this already as we linked our own external style sheets. You can see the relationships, the style sheet. It's got integrity in there for some security stuff. Cross origin is anonymous. So you just copy that, go to your HTML code, and you just paste it in the head of your HTML code. And what that does, again, it just goes out to this HTTPS site where it has this Bootstrap framework library for you and makes it available to you. So by putting that in there, you can go get the style sheets. There's another part of it too that you can do, and that's the JavaScript part of it. So you go down here with the JavaScript and you can do this bundle and you copy this part of it in, and that brings the JavaScript part of it in, and it also brings what they call popper in. The popper is for like tooltips and popovers and stuff that you can use in Bootstrap. So you copy this part down, the JavaScript part down, and I would recommend copying both. That way if you use carousels or anything like that, you have the JavaScript and CSS already there. You don't have to worry about going back out, grabbing what you need or something not working and have to go decide, oh, it's I'm missing my JavaScript part of it. So you copy that, you can paste that up in the head of your HTML document, and now you're ready to start using Bootstrap. You have the 2 files you need to get you going on the Bootstrap. You can download it. Most people just bring it in with that CDN stuff, and that way you have it there ready to use. It's ready to go. It makes it pretty nice like that. There's themes out there for Bootstrap. Let's see if I can copy this. So there's themes out there. You can see they have it kind of set up already. Some sites that you can use. Some templates there. However you want to do it. Minty, it colors everything kind of the top minty. Materia. Pulse, quartz. So you can see how some of these colors are set up for different sites that you want to use. You can download them. You can use them. They're out there. They're free. Like I said, there's all kinds of templates and everything else out there that you can go download and use for these Bootstrap sites if you want to use them. Reboot. So before, when we were doing a regular CSS, we use Normalize in our CSS. Well, when you use Bootstrap, it comes with something called Reboot. And the Reboot is used to correct the inconsistencies across the browsers and devices while providing slightly more optimized resets to common HTML elements. So this Reboot kind of replaces Normalize is what it's doing. So you don't have to go download the Normalize CSS anymore and put it in your code. You can install this Reboot as part of your Bootstrap files that we bring in. It's part of these Bootstrap files here, and Reboot's already included with it. It should kind of optimize all the browsers, make them styled like the Normalize was doing for us previously in the previous chapters that we had looked at. So, and again, installing Bootstrap, it's just this link showing what version it is, 4.5.0. But like I said, they're on version 5 already, so it should be 5 something, whatever one you get and use. I think that first example is 5.0.3. The one I'm using is 5.3.3. They got the JavaScript that you're adding. You can see they're putting some jQuery stuff in here. jQuery is kind of a dying language, so I think they're going away from it and just using this bottom one down here, this Bootstrap, this min.js. That means it keeps the minimum things on your computer that you need to use for Bootstrap. And again, that poppers for the mouse over stuff, the tooltips and the pop-ups that you can do with Bootstrap. The example I showed you, if you go to that Bootstrap 5 web page, this JS bundle here where it says JS and then bundle, this package here already has that popper stuff in it, so you don't need to go out and do 2 separate files. Again, here's the separate files if you want to do them separate. And if you look through here, you can see it has the popper and the minimum usage stuff you need for popper, and Bootstrap the minimum usage stuff you need for Bootstrap. Or just grab the bundle and it'll have popper and the Bootstrap JS files both in it. So So that's the files there. A lot of times I'll make a little text file and copy both of those into it, and that way as I'm coding websites, I can just open that text file up real quick, grab those files out and paste them into my web page and keep going. Don't have to slow down or anything like that. Breakpoints, we've talked about breakpoints already. When we did the media query stuff last week, we brought up breakpoints, and I think somewhere on here, no, there is. We were talking about 992, and that 992, oh, it's right here. We talked about that 992, Jason, why it kept coming up 992 at that time. And that's the viewport width for a large screen. So again, we look at here, the Bootstrap uses some predefined breakpoints and media queries. And like I said, we talked about the media queries already. Those breakpoints are just the size where it actually shifts your web page to change it up, whether it be changes the background color, makes your menu from a row to a column, that kind of stuff. So you can see you have extra small, and these abbreviations here, you'll be using these abbreviations a lot in Bootstrap, so I would try and get familiar with those if possible. So they're saying an extra small screen, a small screen, a medium screen, a large screen, and an extra large screen. So extra large thing is anything greater than or equal to 1200 pixels. I know at home I have a 32-inch monitor, and so I would definitely consider that an extra large screen. There's spacing that goes on with this stuff. And before we use margins and paddings, well, in Bootstrap, they use these little shorthand things here, I guess you call them. So M is for margin, and they're saying 0 margin. M1 is 1, M2, M3, M4, M5, and then M auto. So that auto implements the margins that the browser feels necessary to make your page. Padding is the same way. If you don't want any padding, you go padding 0. They got padding 1, padding 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if you're looking through code or anything like that and you see these M's or the P's, that's what it stands for, is the margins and paddings. And I don't know how much we use them in labs, but I would recommend kind of getting used to those, because you do usually want to put some margin and padding in your pages just to kind of get them to look nice. What side you want it on. And again, when we did that box model and we did the top, the right, the bottom, and left, that's just kind of what this is doing. So if you do like an M3, that's saying put a margin of 3 on all sides of your box. An MT3 just means margin top, MB is margin bottom, margin left, margin right, and MX is left and right. And you can think of that X and that MY there as when we did the backgrounds and had them repeat. We had that repeat X and repeat Y. So this is just saying like that X is left and right, that Y is top and bottom. So when we did background repeat Y, it was up and down or going down the whole side of the web page. When we did background repeat X, it was left to right. So that's kind of what this is doing here. It's just saying if you do MX, just pad the left and right side. If you do MY, just do top and bottom parts of it. Same thing with the padding. Padding is P3, does all sides. That's just like the shorthand of putting the padding of whatever, and it did all 4 sides for you. PT pads the top, PB pads the bottom. PL is padding left, PR padding right, and again that PX is the left and right. The PY is top and bottom. So these little shorthands saves you a lot of times of typing out all that CSS of like padding top 3, padding right 3. You can just now use PT or PR to get it to do what you want. But remember, this only works if you use those import files that we brought in up here at the top. If you don't have those in your code, those little shorthand techniques aren't going to work, because they're using this Bootstrap CSS to actually get it to work. So if we go look, I don't know if we can. If we go look at this Bootstrap. This is the Bootstrap library stuff here. It's really wonky because of how they do it. I was seeing if we could find, let's do a Control F and look for PT. I don't want the caption stuff. Yeah, it does. So you can see here they have this .pt3, so they have the padding top at 1 rem, and it's important pt4, padding top pt5. So you can see this is the actual CSS code that we're calling when we do these things. Here's padding Y. We just saw that was top and bottom, and you can see if we read through here, padding Y2 pads the top 0.5 REMs, showing that it is important, so go ahead and use that style immediately, kind of a thing. And then that does the padding bottom, because we said that PY does top and bottom, and it's saying 5 REM important. So if you ever get bored and want to go look out here and kind of see how they're setting some of this stuff up, that's how you would go do it. Just click on that link and it shows it, just like when you inspect a page or view a page source and you go click on their JavaScript or CSS link, you can go look at their styles. That's what this is doing here. So you can see we have to call that PY, and again it has the dot in front of it, so we know it's a class because of that dot, right? So this is the PT0 class, so it's saying padding top 0, padding 1 top. So that's kind of how you read that, and that's why you gotta have that Bootstrap link up here to get those styles to work, because we're going out and that's what we're calling with those classes, as PT classes and stuff like that. And that's what we're looking here at, this padding top stuff right there, that PT. Horizontal centering. Bootstrap has a .mx auto class for horizontally centering fixed width block level content. That is content that has display block and a width set by setting the horizontal margins to auto. So if you use this div class, you can see that MX, that's the margin left and right. It auto does that, and the style sets the width at 200 pixels. So that MX auto will horizontally center your stuff for you. And you can see it's doing it here. It's centering it horizontally between the two sides of the box. Yeah, so we can take a look at that, but we don't have a background stuff set. So how wide is your viewport? You can use breakpoints to change how much margin padding is applied depending on the width of the viewport. So they say margin 0, margin large is 3. So what they're doing is checking this viewport size. They're saying when it's large, make your margin a 3. So no margin on extra small, small, and medium screens. So no margin, margin 0 on extra small, small, and medium screens. And then on large and extra large screens, give it the size of 3. So here's another example where they're doing class margin 0. But when it hits a medium-sized screen, anything greater than 768 or equal to it, make that margin a 2. When we hit the large screens, make the margin a 3. And when we hit the extra large screens, make that margin a 5. So 0.5 on medium screens, on large screens, and extra large screens there. And again, a lot of this, we'll just be messing around with it, playing around with it, changing the values on it just to see how it moves around on your screen and stuff like that, so you can get comfortable with it. The margins shouldn't be a big deal for you guys since you've been using them a little bit, but just getting used to these the viewport width sizing and the abbreviations will be a little bit different for you. Sizing relative to parent. So again, we use that width property that we were using before. So we're saying width 25%, width 50%, width 75, width 100. Well, now instead of having to type all that width out, putting it in the style sheet and stuff like that, now all you have to do is call this class W20-25 and it automatically sets your width at 25%. Class W50 will set it at 50%. Class W75 sets it at 75%. And W100 will make it 100%. You can set the max width by doing MW100. Max height is class MH100. So you can see it saves you a little bit of typing by just using the Bootstrap classes. You don't have to put all your CSS out there. You don't have to type it all out. Sizing relative to viewport. Use the following classes to set the size of an element relative to the viewport. And you can do the min viewport 100. So that means the min width is 100 for the VW viewport width. Min VH 100, the minimum height is 100 for the viewport height. Colors, like I said, they use what? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 different colors on it for the most part. These colors use these exact names. So you have text primary will make it this blue color here. Text secondary is gray, text excess is green, text danger is red. Text warning, text info, such and such all the way down. That, for the most part, is their colors that they use. That's why I said at times CSS will be better to use than Bootstrap, so you can get more color specific if you want and use what you want to rather than using these 10 that they have predefined for you. Background colors is the same way. This BG, we used to use what? Background color is what you used in CSS. Now they're using this class BG primary to make it this blue color here. BG secondary for the gray, BG success. And again, it has that period in front of it, so we know they're calling a class name because of that. And I'll give you some examples of that as we get going along a little bit more into this. Border colors, you can do the same thing with the border. You say border primary, makes it that blue. And these colors stay the same throughout. So if you're saying primary, it's going to make it this blue. If you say secondary, it's going to make it the green or the gray. Success is going to be green. You can see again, background success, it stays green. Background danger is red. Background warning is yellow. Border danger is red, border success is green, border warning yellow. So as you use these colors, they say the same, primary, secondary, success. They're always going to use those keywords, but just depends on what you're using them for, whether it be background or the text itself. And again, going to text. You got text to left, text center, text right. And what we did in CSS is we wrote that text align left, text align center, text align right out. Well, now instead of saying text align, all you have to do is do text dash left, text center, text right, and it'll do the same thing as that text align. So you can see Bootstrap is a little bit more of a shorthand than CSS. I don't know. To me, some of it's a little more clean, being able to see text line left, but until you become familiar with the shorthand portion of the Bootstrap, it may be a little confusing, but you just reference material. That's why it's out here for the most part. So you got text, and then you can do a breakpoint. So if you do like text, LG, and then a line, whatever, it will shift depending on the size of your viewport. So you can see down here at the bottom where they'll do a class and then they're doing a text, small for the size, medium, large, extra large. When it's that size, shift it to the left. Here they're doing a text left, and you can see up here they do the left, text center, it centers your text, text right, it puts it to the right, and then again down here they're using this breakpoint, text breakpoint align, text breakpoint, and then an alignment there that they use. Text transform, you can transform it lowercase, uppercase, capitalize. When you use the text capitalize, it only changes the first letter of each word, leaving the case of any other letters unaffected. So you can see we do a text capitalize on this bottom one down here. And here it's capitalized text is what they're capitalizing. Well, the C's already capitalized, so it doesn't change it there. The rest of the letters they don't mess with. And then you can see on text it's lowercase in our code, but when it displays it, it capitalizes that first letter T in the text. So that's how that text capitalize works. Text uppercase just changes everything to uppercase, and then text lowercase changes everything to lowercase. Pretty simple, that's pretty straightforward. Font weight and italics. So this is pretty close to what we were doing in CSS already. You can see font weight is bold. Here they just do font weight dash bold, font weight bolder, normal, light, lighter, font italic. So instead of having to do your styling with font style italic, you just put font italic in there and it'll make it italicized for you. Flexbox, we've been working with the CSS Flexbox. Now we're going to do Bootstrap Flexbox. So the display properties, when we did the Flexbox, we did display flex. Here they just do class D-flex to make the item a Flexbox. Display none, D none, that'll get rid of your underlines and stuff like that. Display inline, inline block, and block. We didn't really mess with the inline, block, and block too much. We did use the display none and the deflex, display flex a lot. Display property with breakpoints. So you can use breakpoints to change how the display property depending on the width of the viewport. So again, you do display D for display dash whatever breakpoint you want. And again, when you use these breakpoints, we're using these abbreviations, extra small, small, medium, large, extra large. So if you see that in the code, that's what's going on, as they're setting these breakpoints using these abbreviations. So they got a breakpoint and a display. So here they're doing a display of none. So on any extra small, small, and medium screens, it's hidden, it doesn't show. But then when you get to the display large, and again this large is abbreviation for the viewport widths. So when it gets to display large block, you'll see it on the large and extra large screens. And here they got D block, and so when it displays, it's going to be on block on extra small, small screens. Then when you get to the medium size and larger, medium, large, and extra large, you use the flex, so then it changes into a flex box, kind of like what we've been doing in CSS once it hits that medium size screen. Like I said, I got some examples I'll show you as we go through this. Flexbox direction. And again, this is all going back to that Flexbox stuff we just did last week. So you got the flex row, which makes it stay into a row, and you can see on the screen here it stays a row. You got row reverse, it just reverses a row. This works exactly like the Flexbox we did last week. They're just shortening it up, changing the name a little bit, how they do it. So when you use it in here, you got your column, so it puts them in a column. You got your reverse column, and it reverses the column just like we did last week. Flexbox with breakpoints. So you do flex, whatever your breakpoint size is, in the direction. So here we have flex. So small, extra small, and medium screens, it's going to flex as a column. And then the flex large, it turns it into a row. So as you're shrinking your screen down, the small, extra small, medium screens, it's going to be a column. When you expand it out to large, 992 or larger, it's going to become a row again. So like I said, just like we did in the Flexbox stuff before, now we're just, instead of doing media queries to get this stuff to change sizes and that, we're using these Bootstrap classes to change the sizes and stuff for us now. Justify content, same way. Start and center, between, around. It looks like they're going away with the evenly on this part, but even though they show it down here, so I don't know why they're wanting to do that. But again, just the same thing. Justify content, it starts it at the beginning, the end puts it at the end, centers it, evenly puts the space between, puts spaces around the items, and then spaces everything out evenly at the end. Again, you can use that breakpoint, telling it what size you want to shift things around on. Extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, and justify it based on the size of the screen. Flexbox line items, same thing. Instead of flex start, we just say align item start, and it moves it to the top. Align items end, puts them at the end. Center, align item stretch, stretches to fill the whole Flexbox. And then align items baseline, bases it on the line there in the middle. Self-align, same thing. Self-start, end. It's at the bottom down here. Center it if we need it centered. Stretch it to fill. Baseline. Grow and shrink. You can set the values: 0 grow, 1 grow, 0 grow, or shrink, 1 shrink. Same way as we did on the Flexbox stuff last week. Again, this one we're just using Bootstrap's version of Flexbox, so it's just more shorthand kind of thing is all it's doing. So you can do flex, set a breakpoint, extra small, small, medium, large, extra large. Say whether you want it to grow or shrink, and then you set the size 0 and 1. Flex order, same thing, the same way we did it. They just use a little bit of shorthand now. It's all a class. Instead of writing it all in CSS, we just call the class and it's done for us. Wrap, no wrap, wrap, reverse wrap, wrap, reverse, I should say, same thing. As you use the breakpoints in the wraps, it works the same way as the Flexbox. When you hit certain screen sizes, it just starts wrapping. Last week I was just dragging the browser to get it to work, and it set it up automatically. Now you can set when you actually want it to with these breakpoints. And again, align content. And in on our page and inside ranking on our course page, they have all these Flexbox, like these purple and yellow. The purple is the Flexbox itself, the yellow is the items in the Flexbox. There's a handout on that in the inside ranking, so if you need to go look at that, just to have a reference, a nice handy reference to look at to kind of get a feel for that and how that works. So summary, topics covered, the history of Bootstrap, the key benefits, how to install it, the breakpoint, sizing, spacing, colors, text format, and Flexbox. So that's just kind of how you'll look at it, set it up. The next one we'll take a look at is the grid system. Grid system gets a little bit more confusing, I think, for some people. I think they get used to Flexbox and think of it that way. This grid system is when you look at a web page with this Bootstrap and that, the grid system, your web page goes across and they have these, what they call a grid like this here with the pieces going across it. Can you see that, Jason, or do I need to lower the desk for you?
No, I mean, I know how tables work. So.
Okay, so as this goes across, there's 12 sections to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 sections. And that's the grid system on this for the Bootstrap grid. So there's 12 of them. When you make your grid, they all have to come out to 12. So you can do a 4, 4, and 4, but it has to come out to 12. You can do like a 4 and an 8, but it all has to come out to 12. You can do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I should have spaced it out a little bit better than that. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Like that, but it has to come out to 12. To get it to look properly, to work right, it needs to come out to 12. No matter how you set it up, it shouldn't come, your number should add up to 12. You can do it in any way you want to, any combination. So if you want to do single 12s all the way across, you can do that. 3 4s across, a 4 and an 8, 6 2s. You can do it however you want going down. You can put as many on the screen as you want, but it always has to add up to 12 going across the screen. So you can see here, they use that class container. That goes back to the Flexbox stuff. They're using a class row, saying make it a row. And then when you do the class column, they're saying make it a column for medium screens. And the 4 there, and then column for extra large, make it 2 columns. So you can see it drops down to the 2 columns on the larger devices, and then the column straight across on the extra large here. And so that's how you'll set these up. So you got this column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So an extra small and small devices, it's a column. On the medium and large devices, they're saying just make it 2 columns going across, because here's 4 for that, 2 for this, and then just make it the 4 going across. So because it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. That medium 4 going across, it's 4, 8, 12, 4, 8, 12. So like I said, this can get confusing when you're looking at these viewport sizes and then the column numbers here. It can get confusing. Like I said, it just takes practice to play around with this a little bit to get the understanding of it. Once you kind of understand a little bit, it's not as hard as what it actually looks. And this is how you do it. You're calling 2 classes here. You're calling this column medium 4, and you're calling this column extra large 2. So if we go back to our first, you can see they're doing that column part here. So they're telling it being a column. The row, it starts out as a row. So here's our container. They're saying start it as a row, but then make it into columns as you go along. So like I said, it just takes a little playing around with to understand what's going on with it. And you can see they don't spend much time talking about it. Containers. Containers are the most basic layout element in Bootstrap and require it when using a grid system. So when you use this grid system, the best way to set them up again is just do this div class container, div class row, and then put your columns inside of it. That's the easiest way to set this up, the best way to set it up. You won't have issues with it. I guess I skipped some. Containers provide simplicity and predictability of fixed layouts with a responsive twist. Containers should never be nested. So you should never have a container and then another container inside this container. Each container is its own separate thing. You should always, like I said, do a container, row, and then set your columns up inside of that. And you can see here they do this column 4. So this has 4 spaces in the column of 12, and the second one has 8, and that's why you see it twice as big as this first one, because it has to add up to 12. 4 and 8 is 12. That one's 4, that one's 12. Container classes. Bootstrap comes with 3 different containers. You got a container which sets a max width at each responsive breakpoint. Container fluid, which is the width is 100% at all breakpoints, and then a container, and then you can set your own breakpoint. It's 100% until specified breakpoint. Tables below here displays how each container's max width compares. So you can see a container. It's all 100% for extra small. For small, you start changing the sizes there. The medium, large, extra large, and fluid's all 100%. Fluid's always 100%. And then as they get larger, you can see it spreads out 100%. And then they start changing depending on the size. And we'll take more of a look at that as we go along, just to try and get you comfortable with it, or somewhat comfortable with it. Sure, not understanding it all, just looking at the screen. So again, here's the grid system. Mobile first, 12-column system. Uses containers, rows, and columns. Containers, rows, and columns. So it's built on top of Flexbox. So like I said, we've been working with Flexbox, so we should be somewhat comfortable with that already. And then again, you got 12 columns. You can split the columns. It's always got to be 12. You can split them 6 and 6, 4, 4, and 4, 3, 3, 3, 3. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and then finally 1. So when you do the 12, it's just 1 item per row. 6 has 2, 4 has 3, 3 of them has 4, 2 is 6, and 1 is 12. So just keep that in mind as you're doing these columns. Just it has to add up to 12. That's the important thing to keep in mind. And here's an example again. We just took a look at that. We did the div. And actually, let's copy paste and see if this will work in here. And you can see our column 1 and column 2. You can see it kind of shifts over, it stops. Column 1 is our 4 here. Column 2 is our 8. So that's kind of how that's working. We could do another one. You can see we got 3 columns on there now, and they all kind of line up nicely. And you can put some text align centers and all that kind of stuff in there to get it to look nice and neat, but that's kind of how you set it up. We want to do 4. I think one of our labs or something tells us to use a grid of 4. We got to change these. Let's see what happens if we leave it the same. Control S. You can see it puts it down below. That's not what we want. And again, that's because it only goes up to 12. Now we're at what, 15 doing it that way, so it makes it wrap 3, 3, 3. You can see now we got 4 nice columns on there. Like I said, you can adjust the text, and as they move down, they keep their columns. Bootstrap uses predefined breakpoints and media queries to help you build responsive websites. And again, you can set the sizes to do it a certain way. So let's just copy and paste this out of here. We should be able to do another one here since it's separate containers and rows. And again, classes, when we use classes, they're made to be reusable, so it doesn't matter if we do them the same way like that. So let's save this. And you can see, let's put some breaks in here and see if this will give us a room. So now you can see this was our first one, 4 columns. This is 3. This one says once it gets the medium, start stacking them. And you can see it stacks them. And it leaves our other ones as a column, or as a row instead of a column. And you can see that's when it hits medium. We can do small. So now we're going to get smaller to get it to drop. You can see before it did it about right there, so but now once we get to smaller, it finally drops. So that's how you'd work with that. It's not too bad. Like I said, once you understand, you know, you're telling it do a column, small and 4 kind of a thing, you'll start understanding it a little bit better. It seems weird putting columns in here even though it's not a column, but that's just how their classes are set up. And then again, we can do it here. Grab these breaks out of here. Get this expanded. You can see now we got 6. Here's our first example, our second example, and our third example. And as we start getting smaller, you can see now they drop down to 2 columns. As we continue to get smaller, they go to a row, and that's because we set it for, was it medium or large? So medium, and it drops down. If we keep going, from my web page, that top one should eventually drop, and there it goes. So just how you set it up. There's nothing here setting it. This here is using the viewpoint breaks, small, medium. If it's extra large, just do 2. Kind of see how that works. And then more examples, you can go out to this layout grid. And I'll show you. There's some more column stuff there. Grid options. That might help you a little bit if you go look at this and read out a little bit on it. But all those slides are out in your repository if you want to go look at any of these. Let's go ahead and take like a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 10. We'll come back and about 20 after. There's still a few more slides we need to go through. Next thing we'll take a look at is cards. Cards are pretty nice. A lot of shopping sites and stuff use them just to get your attention and be able to see them. So we'll take a look at the cards when we get back from our break. Looking over the Bootstrap stuff. Next one is cards. Cards are nice for like shopping sites, stuff like that. You'll use those a lot. Cards will represent these items in a list or an array. Twitter tweets, Pinterest images, YouTube videos, Yelp places, social media posts and comment, news media articles, and e-commerce products. I don't mess with a lot of the tweets and Pinterest. I do YouTube, but just to load our videos on there. News media, you do see that a lot. So something like this here uses cards to show news articles. This thing here where you can see the border going around it, that's technically a card. This is a card. Most of the time you'll see those on shopping sites. That's what I do most of mine on. News and shopping sites are probably the two most things I do them for. But depending on companies you work for, you may be doing them for tweets or setting stuff up like that. Cards. Bootstrap's cards provide a flexible and extensible container with multiple variants and options. Cards are flexible and extensible. Cards may include optional headers and footers. Cards contain a wide variety of content. Cards have a wide variety of display options. Just a basic card. You do a div class card, the MB3, and then you do a card body, and then the card text inside of it. To put a subtitle in it, you do an H5 here for class. You can use any size heading you want in these. It doesn't have to be a 5 or 6. But again, you do your card MB3. And I can't think of what the MB stands for off the top of my head on here. I'll look it up here in a second. Div class card body. So you have your card, the container for your card. You got your card body. Then you have your card title. You can see it here. Card subtitle. And they're using this text muted. Remember when we were talking about those colors? That text muted is a gray. So they're using that text muted down here. And then card subtitle. And then the card text itself down here. Card with a header. You see they put this card header in now. The header puts the little gray area back behind the card title and subtitle to make it stand out a little more. Then you got your card body down here, and then you got your text inside of it. We'll take more of a look at it here. Here's a footer. They put a footer down here, and that's just using card footer. Here they're doing a header, the body and text, and a footer in it. Card with a button. So just like our normal links, our button links, we have the anchor with an href. That pound sign says it's a link, but it's not going to go anywhere. They're using the button class and the button primary. And again, we go back to those colors. That primary is just that blue color, and that's why that button's a blue. We could do button danger. We can do like button danger. And now you can see we have it's red instead of that primary. We go warning. And it goes yellow. So like I said, the colors for Bootstrap is the same for all of it. It's just a matter of remembering what they are. I think success is green. So our button should now be green, so you can see. So that's all that does. Here they're doing one showing left align for text, center align for text, right align for text. Here they got the text center one up here. So that'd be this in here if you want to center your text in your card. And again, you got your class card, which sets up your card, the MB3. And that text center centers the text in it. And then you got your card body, which is this whole part in here. Got your card title, and then your card text. And again, they got the card button in here. Or not the card button, but just the button, I'm sorry. So, and again, the colors, it goes back to the same colors. You can set the color for the body of your card just by doing text white, background, what's it, primary. That didn't work. What did I miss? Text white BG primary. Did I not have that? Text white BG primary. Still didn't want to. Oh, I see what I did. Gotta have it inside the quotes because that's how we do our classes. So now let's save this. And there we go. So now we got our background color is that primary. Our text is white. We could set this again to like danger. It should be red. So that's how easy it is to change colors and stuff. And Bootstrap is just that little bit of a switch there instead of having to go write all the code out for this background color, blah, blah, blah. And we can just do it right here. Text, we can do primary. And now our text is blue. So pretty straightforward on that. You can put an image on top if you want. So I'll make another card. Card image top, and we'll put, let me copy my Pikachu. I think he's in here already. Documents. Where is that? HTML demo. Do I have Pikachu in here? He's in my images. We got Bulbasaur though, so we'll do that. So we can go images, JFIF, GIF, is that what they're trying to change it for? I don't know. So let's save that and we'll see if this works. BULBAS. Let's try. Well, I wonder if we do our Snorlax, if that'll work. For some reason I want to put my image on there. Let me take one out of here and see if that will work. HTML demo, I am in that, aren't I? HTML demo, oh that's why, because I have it moved into a different folder. So working on this, I'm working on this Bootstrap folder, and I'm trying to get it from this images, so it's not wanting to work right. So let me copy him, and I'll just put him in this HTML demo folder, or my Bootstrap folder. Paste. And now I can get rid of the file extension, and I changed it to Bulbasaur, didn't I? There we go. Ooh, that's awfully big. So you see image on top, but the image is so big it's kind of wonky like that, but you get the idea. Putting the image on top there, if I use a decent size image it won't look so bad, but take that out of there just so it doesn't make our page look too bad.
Mr. G.
Yep.
For our final project, are we doing like almost the exact same thing with CRUD on like from Z# but on our HTML for this final project?
When we get to the JavaScript and React part, that's when we'll start using the CRUD operations.
And that has to be a part of the final project, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
I kind of got like a good idea how I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
It's just
Like I said, we'll do a code along, and then you guys just use that as a base and do what you want to do with it, kind of a thing.
I mean, I kind of got a good idea, but it's just how do you make it where a user can like resubscribe and they get notifications if somebody adds like a person's playlist?
That's getting more into what we're going to actually be doing. Our main thing is trying to learn React and then some of the CRUD operation stuff. So
Okay, I know it gotta be possible.
it's, yeah, and we're not going to go that far into it, so we're just going to learn like the basics of the CRUD stuff with React and that. So don't worry about trying to overthink it. So if you want an image on the left, you can do this row no gutters. That gutter is usually some spacing is what that is for. I'm going to call it for column medium 4, and then they do the style. And just like we did the background stuff, you do background, URL, and then wherever you want it to go. You can center it or you can cover it. It does a min height and that there. Let's give this a shot with our Bulbasaur. Since they're resizing it on here, it should make our Bulbasaur a little bit better looking on here. So this just should be there we go. So now it makes it a little bit smaller. Our image is on the left there. It resized it actually. You see the height's at 300. Let's make it 200, just a little bit smaller. So there you can see he's on there now. You can see our card, the border along the card there. How he kind of sits in there. So that's if you want to put an image on the left of your card. Image on the right, same way. And then if you want more examples, you can go out to the Bootstrap website and get some more examples for that. So that's cards. Let's see if I can find a little bit better of an example. I guess not. I guess it's all about the same. like I said, if you go out to W3 schools, you'll get some good examples out there for some of this stuff. Next is the navbar. Navbars you'll be using a lot in this. There's not much to it. Navbar, Bootstrap's responsive navbar includes support for branding, navigation, and more. Includes support for the Collapse plugin. Navbar require a wrapping navbar element with navbar expand in the breakpoint, so it expands on it for responsive collapsing, and color scheme classes. Navbars and their contents are fluid by default. Navbars are responsive by default. Navbars are hidden by default when printing. Use spacing and flex utility classes to control spacing and alignment. So a simple navbar, non-responsive. You have the company name in that. We'll copy it in here real quick. Just take a look at it. Put it at the top, since that's usually where you want your navbars to go. And you can see again with the navbar, they're using an unordered list. And then they have the list items here that they use. They're showing it's an active link, nav link. And again, a lot of these, unless you dig through their code and that, you'll have to research on what some of these classes do. I wish our book gave us some better examples than that of it. So let's save this. We'll go look at our navbars up there. It's non-responsive, so it's just going to stay up there and do what it does. You can see our card's responsive down on the bottom by how it jumps around. So they're using a navbar class. They're using this navbar brand for where the company name and logo go. And then for the links, this is an active one. And I believe if we look at it again, no. So usually the active one's a little bit brighter than the other one to show that it's actually being used, that it's active. Let's go back and look. Navbar expand, and then navbar dark. That's the coloring, and then the background dark. So then we'll go take a look at a responsive one. A responsive navbar. Comment this one out real quick. So now if we look at this, got our navbar up here. Toggler, I guess that's the way they're going to shrink it down. Yeah, I was looking for links, but I see they don't have any links on here, so we can go back. But as we go down lower, you can see they add the hamburger menu. That's called the hamburger menu because you got like the top bun, the meat, and the bottom bun. So if you hear hamburger menu, that's what they're talking about. So that one throws a hamburger menu on there for you. And this is what does it, is that button allows it to happen. Then you can add a brand logo, navbar expand, small, dark, navbar brand, index. Here's the image they add for it. Right here is the source of it. I don't have the logo on there to show you how it works, right? I know all my pictures are pretty big, so that's how you would add an image to it. You have your hyperlink. Just put your image in there. Put the company name in there as the span too. So both of those should be clickable. Color scheme. You got dark and light. And by using this navbar light, it kind of knows how to set it up. Background light. Primary. You can see how it changes to the blue by using primary. And that's about it for navbars. Not too much with them. We've worked with some of them already with the CSS and that. With removing the dots off the list items and stuff like that for an unordered list. By using this navbar class, it does all that kind of stuff for you. And if we go look, let me see if I can find it. So you can see all the navbar stuff here. They do some padding on them. There's some color RGBA stuff for it. The opacity is 0.65, hovering over it. So you can see there's quite a lot with this navbar stuff going on. And does. So you can see there's quite a bit with the navbar, how much they have set up with it. So a lot of different options going on with it. Let's take a look at another thing real quick. Another navbar. Just an example of a vertical navbar. Use the background light, a fluid container for it. Got our navbar, got the nav item, a nav link, another nav item, having the link, another nav item, and the link. I think W3 Schools has some good examples on them that actually look a little cleaner than what the these slides are actually showing. There's another nav bar, just a basic one. I think yeah, so it's set when it gets small or medium, it drops down to a column instead of a row. Kind of see that a lot on phones and stuff like that. So it's using the fluid. It sets it up so it moves. They got margin at top 3. So there's a lot of examples out there. You can go out and check a lot of these out. But that's nav bars. Buttons. Buttons are pretty much the same as regular buttons. Responsive navbar includes support for branding, navigation, and more, including support of the Collapse plugin. Oh, that's the navbar. Where did my button one go? Buttons. Buttons use Bootstrap's custom button styles for actions and forms, dialogues, and more with support of multiple sizes, states, and more. Easy to apply, give boring HTML buttons and links an updated design. Styles to be used on anchors, buttons, and input tags. Works in all browsers. So you can see you got unstyled links and buttons. So just pretty plain boring, a link, couple buttons. And with Bootstrap, you can add the button class and then tell it what color to use on the button. So let's copy these real quick and throw them in our code. Put these at the bottom down here. We go take a look at these. Full size again. You can see it makes the fancy buttons down here. And then just a regular link. That's a button. Link. I haven't seen that one used very much.
And when we used to use like an actual custom button instead, you just put like image.
If you wanted to use an image instead.
Yeah, as far as the button goes, you just put like images on that href.
Yeah, and most of them you'll use, since the button sizing is what it is. I don't know if they give us an example in here. A lot of times you'll use like the favicon stuff that we created previously, and that you'll use stuff like that just to keep them smaller. And here's buttons where we can do an outline on them. We'll do primary. And now you can see our primary is outlined. It's got a nice little mouse over effect to it, to where it changes colors as we move over it. Before, if you would do this in CSS, you'd have to use CSS and JavaScript to do a mouse over event to make it change colors. Now with Bootstrap, it's already set up. All you do is change your class a little bit.
Can you just use the hover selector in CSS without JavaScript?
Yeah, you could use that too if you wanted to. Oops. Control S is what I want. So you can see our secondary. And then you could set up JavaScript in that too for this, to where if you wanted these buttons to change colors as you mouse over, another mouse over kind of event thing that we'll get more into when we start talking JavaScript. But that's kind of the stuff hidden behind this that makes some of it work. And then you can size your buttons, button large, button small, and you can see regular, so the BTN large sets it as large, nothing on it keeps it as a regular size, and then you can do button small to make it small. And that's about it for buttons. Pretty quick and easy. Let's see if I can find one. Buttons, button outline, button sizes, block level buttons. You can make spinner buttons. Boot class has a class called spinners in it. And you can add these spinners to your buttons. So let's save that. You can go look at our buttons, and you can see, like for a loading page or something like that, how it puts these spinners on it. So if you're working with a database or something and it's got a big query or something that you're waiting on to return, you can do something like that if you want it to. And then finally, The Jumbotron is outdated. They're going away with it. There's other ways to set it up though. So above the fold, let me get back up to the top as I go through here. Jumbotron, a lightweight, flexible component to showcase key marketing messages on your site. It's usually like an attention grabber kind of a thing. Hello world, blah, blah, blah. Got the button and stuff on there. Above the fold, an analog world. So I think we talked about above the fold in one of the first couple classes, and above the fold in a web page is pretty much to where you don't have to scroll down to find the thing on it. So like above the fold, originally with newspapers, you know, the newspapers are always folded in half. The headlines on that top page that you can see above the fold, kind of a terminology. Due to being printed on large sheets of paper, they were folded once when they were hit the newsstands. You kind of see the image over here. This led to only the top half of the front page being visible by passerbys. So like on a web page, this would be our kind of above the fold thing going on here, because we don't have to scroll. Once you scroll, anything below where you start scrolling, that's considered below the fold. So your Jumbotron, you'd want up here somewhere just to catch their attention. Usually it's just under the nav bar, a little bit under the nav bar, so it's one of the first things you see to catch your attention. Newspapers learn to present attention-grabbing headlines, content, and imagery at the top half of the page. This basic principle applies to digital content. The fold relates to the scroll bar. Anything that isn't visible immediately that requires scrolling is considered below the fold. The fold is generally 400 to 600 from the top of the viewport. You can view viewport height to be more precise if needed. The conversion funnel and calls to action gets your attention. Search engine optimization, ads, marketing, etc. Piques their interest, attractive visuals, video content, quick summaries. National park pages will use like a big picture of the park in fall or something like that, just to show you how pretty it can be. Build a relationship of trust and the desire to buy. So like if you have a big sale or something going on, you'd want that in your Jumbotron to see how it looks, give them an action to take. You can purchase, subscribe, etc. to it. Lessons learned, present attention-grabbing headlines, content, and imagery above the fold of the home page. Use large font sizes above the fold. Use background images and their gradients above the fold. Use animated graphics and videos above the fold. Give a call to action. And I think in one of our labs, our hands-on test, it had that buy it now button. That's kind of like a call to action, trying to get them to do something for you. Simple Jumbotron, they have a container class called Jumbotron, and then I don't think they use Jumbotron anymore, so what you end up doing is let's put this just under our nav bar here. So now you're going to use a container. You're going to give it margin top 3, and then in the class here you use a margin top 4, some padding of 5. You're going to use this background primary. It's going to make it blue, and then text white. And you're going to want to round your container, and so that's kind of how they're doing Jumbotrons nowadays. So let's save this. Take a look, and so now you can kind of see the Jumbotron so it sticks out. I would probably use part CSS and part Bootstrap on this more than likely, just to get some better coloring or like a gradient or something going in there to get it to stick out more, an image in the background. Let's see if they give more examples of stuff like that. So there's a simple Jumbotron. That's kind of just what we set up. That's a full width Jumbotron. Here's one with background images, so you can see they threw some CSS. Calling this example jumbotron. Set the color white, background image, no repeat. Put a button on it. So they're using this jumbotron class, the jumbotron fluid, and then you use your own CSS here. Example jumbotron, so we're calling our own class here. So there's where you can use Bootstrap and CSS together like that. So you're using a Bootstrap class here for jumbotron, you're using a Bootstrap class here called jumbotron fluid, and then we use our own CSS class here called example jumbotron. And here's our example jumbotron, how we have it set up. Our jumbotron, our H1 for the jumbotron, we're setting the font weight to bolder, putting a text shadow on it. So there's that bolder text here with that little black text shadow behind it, and see the name text shadow, not box shadow, text shadow there. And then the button, our example jumbotron class button. There's the button. We're kind of changing some of that class around to use this font weight bolder, and then we're putting a box shadow behind the box there to make it stick out. So that's how you would add your own CSS to this style navbar, or the jumbotron that they're currently going to in Bootstrap 5. This was available in Bootstrap 4. If you want to use it, what you would have to do is get a link to like a Bootstrap 4 for the CSS and that, and then you could use the jumbotron classes in that to create it. I would stick with Bootstrap 5 since that's a current version, and just do your changes in here to add the classes on that you need to get it to look right. That's background image. There's a lot more to jumbotron, or to Bootstrap than that. There's tables. We'll look at some of those when we get into tables. There's alerts that you can use. Let's take a look at the alerts real quick. So these are alerts. You can see the class is alert, and again they go back to these colors. So the alert is going to use, that's green, that's a type of blue, that's yellow. So these alerts excuse me, just set up a box, some background in it, a little bit of bolding and stuff like that in it. So that's an alert. You can put links in the alerts by using the alert link. You can close alerts. They have badges. I think one of our labs or something asked us to use some badges. What's that movie? Is it it's probably way before your guys' time, but the comment is, badges, we don't need no stinking badges. Was that Blazing Saddles or something like that, maybe?
I wouldn't know.
No, I figured it was before your guys' time. But there's badges there. You can see the little button look to it. That's what the badge actually is where it says new is the badge itself. There's progress bars, there's carousels. I think in some of them we'll use carousels. Let me see if I can get this example to work. to add my images in here to get it to work. But I think in one of the labs it says you use a carousel. You can see there's carousel classes. I'll put Bulbasaur in here. And I'll put Snorlax in here, and we'll see what happens. This might not work because of the using a GIF. That's not going to have anything, so we'll probably have a blank piece of screen. So you can see he's pretty big. There should be controllers over there that to make it move. But like I said, it's not set up quite right, but you kind of get the gist of it. That you can scroll through the pictures, you'll see that a lot on websites, especially like shopping websites and stuff like that, that you can scroll through them and see the different things. You can scroll left and scroll right. You can see Bulbasaur's head right there. So that's kind of a carousel. I know it's a bad example since I don't have the images set up right for it. But if you go out and look, there's all kinds of examples of this stuff out there. W3C Schools has a lot of good examples, so if you're stuck on something or need a little more info, I would say go out, check W3C Schools, and then just kind of look around. The Bootstrap website itself has a lot of good information in it. A lot of it's just a shortcut instead of having to constantly type out CSS stuff. But like I said, CSS gives you a little more flexibility, as you saw when we kind of looked at the jumbotron example here. It still gives you your CSS a lot of flexibility compared to Bootstrap. Bootstrap, a lot of the basics and stuff for you, but to really get fancy and cool, you'll still have to throw some of your own CSS in to get some of the stuff to look nice. So that'll kind of wrap up the Bootstrap part. I'll go ahead and unlock the labs, homework, and tests and stuff for you guys to start.